Well, Max, it's another terrific day. We're here to celebrate Dan Lawrence's Test debut, and what a way to start. 73 on debut, stayed at the wicket for 3 hours. Great start for him, isn't it?
Yes, very much so. Shame he couldn't get to three figures. I know having got in and got through the tough periods, it'd have been nice to reach three figures, especially on debut. But as you said, we'd have all settled for that. We're all watching at home and willing him on. And, I think in any team, when you make your debut, you want to make a good start. And he certainly made a good impression, not just the runs he got, how he looked at the crease. You could see him smiling out there, chatting with Joe Root. So he was certainly being himself. So, it was great to see. And hopefully many more runs to come.
Yeah, and if you're going to showcase your talents on debut or early stages of your career, no time better to do it than with your captain at the opposite end, is there?
Yeah, a good guy to bat with. I mean, I know him well from playing with him and working with him a bit. So I know Joe would have been a calming influence out there. But I thought they were a good partnership together. The way they kept the board ticking over. Joe looked to sweep quite a bit, and Dan hitting the gaps. So there were a good tempo to the innings, and looked like they had a good understanding between the wicket as well. So really pleasing.
And I'm sure everybody at Essex can take great pride in seeing Dan arrive on the international scene, because there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes, hasn't there? And supporters, again, have been delighted to see his emergence as the latest player from the academy to make the Test scene. And so, as I say, everybody at Essex can be truly proud of his achievements and their part in helping him to reach that level. Yeah,
the whole club. You're spot on. I mean, there's been so many people helping, I guess since he's been a little boy. So there's not just, certain individuals. So everyone associated with Essex Cricket and at the club, anytime someone makes their international debut, it's a proud moment. And look, we're here first and foremost for Essex and to win games, but also to produce England players. So for Dan to do that and perform well, everyone was absolutely delighted.
As much as anything, I guess, Mags, apart from the outstanding thing you need, talent, which he's obviously got in abundance, but to play at that level, you need character, don't you? And he's shown so many times that he's got that becoming certainly, I think it was the youngest player for Essex to score a century, certainly the third youngest in championship history when he got that ton at Surrey. And then we saw a sort of totally different innings when he defied everything that Lancashire could throw at him, including Jimmy Anderson, on our return to the First Division, when he batted for about 7 hours, I think, to keep them at bay and get the draw for us. So even earlier on in his career, he was showing that he had the gritty determination that you need to succeed.
Yeah, and I think character, again, is one thing you look for in players. And Dan's got that in abundance, as you said, from a young guy. He's still only young, 23, but he's got a lot of experience. But throughout whichever levels he's been at and whatever tests he's had, that character has shone through, and it served him well. And, the top players do have that. And I think I said this week before his debut, I don't think anyone's worried about the talent he's got and dealing with the technical side of things. I think when you move up the levels, and this is the highest level you can go to, it's about dealing with the outside noise. And that's where your character comes in, the mental toughness side and shutting out everything going on around international cricket. And I know there's no crowds there at the moment, but the press and media are. And I think that's what Dan has got, not just the character on the field. You could see today he was enjoying it, even though the pressure's there. He looks upon it differently. It's a great opportunity, and that character, certainly shone through.
Yeah, I think initially when he came to the club, I think John Childs and Keith Fletcher were probably very instrumental in sort of developing his career and his progress, anyway, should we say, at that stage. And Keith Fletcher, I think at 15, picked him out as having a special talent. And given the amount of players that Keith has seen playing with the Essex, and also in his role as a mentor and developing them as well, that was some praise. And, to be fair to Dan, that's a bit of pressure as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Fletcher's very good at picking players out and still is. So Yeah, we know Keith's track record on that. But no, I mean, look, sometimes you see a young player, and people coming into trials and so on. To get into a trial and into a county setup, you need to be good. But there's sometimes guys just come along who you think, this guy's got a real chance. But then some people fall away. So it's not just the talent and being identified. I guess, where someone like Keith Fletcher, they will know other things to look for. And we've spoke about that character, how much time a batsman has, when they're playing against pace, his footwork, how he holds himself, the confidence. So you take all them things into account when you're looking at players. And again, Dan had all of them things as a young guy coming in. You mentioned the knock against Surrey. I wasn't at the club at that time, but everyone spoke about he looked like he belonged straight away. At such a young age, he didn't look out of place. So them kind of traits, being with him all the way through.
Your first experience of him presumably was 2016, was it, Max?
Yes. Yeah. First time I saw him was indoor school training before we went on tour, and again, I'd heard a lot about him, and I'd done a little bit of research on him and spoke with Chris Silverwood, and everyone at the club were, buzz about him, his innings at Surrey and coming, into being a first team player. But again, just, I've said again this week, the way he works, the way he thought about his batting as a young player, slightly different technique and method, but one, he really believed in. And again, that is a great trait to have as a young player. That stubbornness, that belief is, no, this is how I play, and this is what I'm going to work with. So again, just straight away, like quite a lot of the young players, to be fair, when I came in, I was really impressed.
And I guess particularly exciting and a challenge for you and your coaching staff, because having identified a young talent at that age, 16, 17, and thinking, this guy has the ability to go all the way, but there can be so many issues that stop that. As a coach, you want to try and be part of a player reaching international level, don't you? The pinnacle of their career. And just to see that developing year in and year out must give you inwardly a lot of satisfaction, Megs.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, not just myself, the players have been texting this morning, the coaches, it really is, everyone is behind it. It gives everyone a lot of pleasure. But, as a coach, and we've had many coaches work with Dan with Essex, you want to work with the player, and ultimately it's their career, it's not yours. So you give them advice, yes, you give them, I guess, little tips and traits along the way, but ultimately you want a player to plot his own path, and sometimes it's just not meant to be to step up to that level. But certainly with Dan, we're hoping we're seeing the start of a great career with England.
Yeah, and I want to say something of a visionary, because I remember in 2018, the club, we did a feature with him, and said to him, the question was, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? And he said, helping Essex win titles and playing for England. Well, that's come along a little bit quicker than perhaps even he thought about. So, but that's great. But that, if you like, just underlines his determination to succeed, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the confidence in his ability. And there's a fine line between, people say confidence and arrogance, and he's not the latter by any means, but he's confident in his ability. And you have to be as a professional sportsman, because it's a tough gig. There's a lot of downs. People forget how many low scores you do have over a career, and it's the high scores that people remember. So there's a lot of challenges to deal with, and Dan's had challenges as well, without doubt. Personally and with his cricket. So. Look, I think the other thing to stress, he's still a young guy. He's still at the start of his journey. He's played a lot of cricket for his age, and that will hold him in good stead. But there's the great thing is there's a lot of improving. At 23, he could potentially, you look at Alistair Cook, play for a long time. So, I don't think anyone's getting carried away. Neither is Dan. It's only one game and one innings, but from what he's done and shown so far, it's something to certainly work with and progress.
Max, there's been a lot of talk recently about this alteration of his trigger movement, and just sort of reading about it in the media, it's almost become a magic wand. Everything clicks into place once it's trigger movement. But I guess really, I mean, that's overplaying it, isn't it? It's just a way of modifying your technique and perhaps taking it up to another level. When did this discussion first come about, Max, with him about this trigger movement?
Yeah, I mean, since I've worked with him from the start, he's always had a trigger movement, and he did pretty well with the trigger movement.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, he scored plenty of runs. But I think he just felt himself he'd come to a point where he wanted to stand a bit stiller. He felt he was getting out in ways he shouldn't do, and it was towards the back end of the 2019 season at Warwickshire. I think he got out cheaply or first innings. On a flat pitch, and he'd not scored as many runs as he wanted over the previous weeks and months. And he'd been chatting about it with Tom Huggins, our batting coach, and myself, and a couple of the players actually. And he said, "Right, I'm going to stand still," which to most people and coaches, we were like, "Well, we're going for the double here. We've got 2 matches left in the championship and 2020 finals day. Let's get through them, and we'll assess in the winter." And he's like, "No, I need to do it now." So, like I said earlier, it's a player's career, so you give them the pros and the cons and what you think. And Dan was like, "No, I'm doing it next game against Surrey." So I think we had 2 days in between. He did it in the nets, and in typical Dan fashion, went out and got 140. So it just shows you, that player, a belief, the ability. I I really want to do this. So look, there's going to be bumps in the road, because when players are tweaking stuff all the time, so it's not like as you said, a magical decision. Not a lot's changed in terms of where he accesses the ball and where he scores, but he just felt being stiller at the crease on the point of delivery and being able to probably keep out certain balls, it'd give him more of a chance. And I think from that winter, he scored well in Australia on the A tour, and I think that's what caught the selector's eye. So I'm sure he'll be tweaking, and I know he is now on. But that is a fairly big change, pre-delivery movement to standing still in only a few days. But he's had a chance to keep grooving it now, and it served him well.
Yeah, and I guess the danger with that is that, it's better to come from the player himself than the coach perhaps making that change of a player who's successful. Because if there are a couple of low scores and you say there is going to be bumps in the road, you don't want to start self-doubting, and then the players saying, "Well, I'm only doing this because the coach has told me to do it." He can always revert back to, if you like, a more natural tendency if he feels it's necessary, can't he?
Without doubt, and that is fundamentally the discussion. We're here to players' ideas or thoughts, but ultimately, certainly I anyway, and I know the other could want the players to make their own decisions, because, as you say, if it's coach-led and the players are, even if they're 90% behind it, if they have a slight doubt, then when the pressure is on, when someone's bowling at 90 mile an hour or the pitch is uneven, they're going to think this really wasn't my idea, and they're gonna, I'd rather be, a player be absolutely convinced. And as you say, if it doesn't work, you can always revert back. But I think discussing it's fine. But as you say, a player has to be crystal clear that this is the right way to go.
Yeah. One aspect of his game, finally, we talk about that really has sort of, shall we say, not been promoted or talked about so much, is his development in white ball game. Because for me, being privileged to watch his career developing, I think his progress in white ball cricket has been quite outstanding and phenomenal, to be honest with you, Mags. I mean, the power with which he hits the ball, he's got this strange action, isn't he? I mean, if you're down the other end, I think you think there's possibly doing an interpretation of a windmill about to go into action. But he gets wickets, doesn't he? But his run scoring is phenomenal. I guess that's the next stage for him as well, to get into international level at white ball cricket, because he's certainly got that talent as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's just been out in the Big Bash in Australia with Brisbane, which will have been a fantastic experience. I know he wasn't there for long, but to be picked up by a Big Bash team and coached by Darren Lehman, who I'm close to, you know, that's testament to Dan that he's going to be picked up in them franchise competitions. And as you say, Essex has really come on. You know, he wants to bat towards the top of the order. He did that this year. You know, I think he were a little bit disappointed he didn't get more runs for us this year. He showed glimpses, and the year before. I think the next stage is to really go and get the 80s, 90s, 100s. And if he's batting at number 3, he will have a chance to do that. And I think that's the way to force his way in, because, you know, England are a very good T20 team and white ball team. So you have to be getting the big scores to push your way in. But he's certainly got that in his locker. And, you know, his field has improved and his bowling is handy. Yeah. It's something we're always telling him to work on, you know, work more on your bowling. And, you know, be a 3-dimensional cricketer, which he is becoming. I mean, you mentioned his action, but, you know, some people still think he's a leg spinner. They don't believe from his action he's bowling off spin. And I'm still getting messages from everyone about Dan Lawrence's leg spin, which, yeah, now they've seen him on TV live, they actually believe in me. But yeah, so, you know, his action are even tricking people around the country and the world who think he's a leg spinner.